Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamire Nashtapraisha Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavatasya Bhagavati Uttam Shloke Bhakti Bhagavati Nashtike. So continuing with the discussion on Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 8, Chapter 20, Bali Maharaj surrenders the universe. Text number 14 onwards. Shri Shukavacha, Evam Ashratitam Shishyam Anadeshkaram Guru, Shashapadeva Prahita Satya Sandham Manasvinam. Shri Shukdev Goswami continued. Thereafter, the spiritual master Shukracharya, being inspired by the Supreme Lord, cursed his exalted disciple Bali Maharaj, who was so magnanimous and fixed in truthfulness that instead of respecting his spiritual master's instructions, he wanted to disobey his order. So, critical thing to note here is Shukracharya was being inspired by the Supreme Lord. So it's all Krishna's pastime or Vamandev's pastimes. The difference between the behavior of Bali Maharaj and that of his spiritual master Shukracharya was that Bali Maharaj had already developed love of Godhead, whereas Shukracharya, being merely a priest of routine rituals, had not. The Shukracharya was never inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead to develop in devotional service. So since he was not into devotional service, he was inspired the other way. As stated by the Lord himself, Tesham Satativiktanam Bhajtam Priti Purvaka. To those who are constantly devoted and worship me with love, I give the understanding by which they can come to me. Devotees who actually engage in devotional service with faith and love are inspired by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Vaishnavas are never concerned with ritualistic Smarta Brahmans. Srila Sanatana Goswami has therefore compiled Hari Bhakti Vilas to guide the Vaishnavas who never follow the Smarta Vidhi. Although the Supreme Lord is situated in the core of everyone's heart, unless one is a Vaishnava, unless one is engaged in devotional service, one does not get sound advice by which to return home back to Godhead. Such instructions are meant only for devotees. Therefore, in this verse, the word Deva Prahita, being inspired by the Supreme Lord, is important. Shukracharya should have encouraged Bali Maharaj to give everything to Lord Vishnu. This would have been a sign of love for the Supreme Lord. But he did not do so. On the contrary, he wanted to punish his devoted disciple by cursing him. So Shukracharya ended up cursing Bali Maharaj actually. He cursed his exalted disciple. So what was the curse? Dhiranam Panditam Anyagya Stabdho Asyam Smayad Upekshaya Machasana Snatigo Yastvam Achirad Bhrashyase Shriyaha. Although you have no knowledge, you have become a so-called learned person, and therefore you dare to be so impudent as to disobey my order. Because of disobeying me, you shall very soon be bereft of all your opulence. So this only is although he's a Brahman, but Smarta Brahman, not a devotee Brahman. So only a person like that can curse a devotee, or anybody else for that matter. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur says that Bali Maharaj was not Pandit Mani, or one who falsely assumes himself learned. Rather, he was Pandit Manyagya, one who is so learned that all other learned persons worship him. And because he was so learned, he could disobey the order of his so-called spiritual master. He had no fear of any condition of material existence. Anyone cared for by Lord Vishnu does not need to care about anyone else. Thus, Bali Maharaj could never be bereft of all opulences. The opulences offered by the Supreme Personality of Godhead are not to be compared by the compared to the opulences obtained by Karmakanda. In other words, if a devotee becomes very opulent, it is to be understood that his opulence is a gift of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Such opulence will never be vanquished, whereas the opulence achieved by one's fruitive activity may be vanquished at any moment. So, and Shukracharya being a Brahman, his words had to be kept by the Supreme Lord. So, when he said, very soon you shall be bereft of all your opulence, and definitely it's going to happen. But that only can happen for material opulence, not spiritual opulence. And material opulence we're going to lose anyway. Bali Maharaj had this thought in his mind. At the time of death, we're going to lose everything anyway. So what's the use? Evam shapta svaguruna satyanna chalito mahan vamnaya tada venam architvo tak purvakam. Shukdev Goswami continued, even after being cursed in this way by his own spiritual master, Bali Maharaj, being a great personality, never deviated from his determination. Therefore, according to custom, he first offered water to Vamandev and then offered him gift of land he had promised. Vindhyavalis tad agatya patni jalak malini aninya kalasham hemam Vane Janya Pam Vritam. Bali Maharaj's wife, known as Vindhyavali, who was decorated with necklace of pearls, immediately came and had a large golden water pot brought there, full of water with which to worship the Lord by washing his feet. See, even Vindhyavali was very devoted wife and devotee of the Lord. They didn't care if they lose everything material. Yajmana Swayam Tasya Srimatpad Yugam Muda Avanijya Vanam Murtani Tadapo Vishwa Pavani. Bali Maharaj, the worshipper of Lord Vaman, jubilantly washed the Lord's lotus feet and then took the water on his head. For that water delivers the entire universe. So there is the water, the Charnamrit of the Lord. It has very, very special potency. Dada Surendram Divi Devata Gana Gandharva Vidyadhar Siddha Charana Tat Karma Sarve Api Granantarjavam Prasun Varshar Vrishur Mudan Vitaha. At that time, the residents of the higher planetary system, namely the demigods, the Gandharvas, the Vidyadhars, the Siddhas, and Charans, all being very pleased by Bali Maharaj's simple, non-duplicious act, praised his qualities and showered upon him millions of flowers. Arjavam, simplicity or freedom from duplicity, is a qualification of a Brahman and a Vaishnava. A Vaishnava automatically acquires all the qualities of a Brahman. So this is mentioned in Bhagavatam, Yasyasti Bhaktir Bhagavati Akinchana. A Vaishnava should possess the Brahminical qualities such as Satya, Shama, Dam, Titiksha, and Arjava. Arjava means simplicity. There cannot be any duplicity in the character of a Vaishnava. And this is what one place Bhakti Siddhanta Maharaj said. Saralta hi Vaishnavata means simplicity. A Vaishnava is very simple, not duplicitous, not political, doesn't like to play games, not cunning. Materially, people are so duplicitous, not Vaishnavas. When Bali Maharaj acted with unflinching faith and devotion unto the lotus feet of Lord Vishnu, this was very much appreciated by all the residents of the higher planetary system. Nedur muhur dundubhya sahasrasho gandharva kim purusha kinnara chakruhu manasvinanena kritam sudushkaram vidvan dadar yad ripave jagat prayam. The Gandharvas, the Kimpurushas, and the Kinnars sounded thousands and thousands of kettle drums and trumpets again and again, and they sang in great jubilation, declaring how exalted a person is Bali Maharaj and what a difficult task he has performed. Even though he knew that Lord Vishnu was on the side of his enemies, he nonetheless gave the Lord the entire three worlds in charity. Even the demigods had appeared and they were singing the glories of Maharaj Bali. Tad Vamanam Rupam Vardhatadbhutam Hareranantasya Gunatrayatmakam Kham Disho Dyor Vivara Payodheyas Tiryanganrideva Rishiyo Yatasat. The unlimited Supreme Personality of Godhead, who had assumed the form of Vamandev, then began increasing in size, acting in terms of the material energy, until everything in the universe was within his body, including the earth, the planetary systems, the sky, the directions, the various holes in the universe, the seas, the ocean, the birds, beasts, human beings, the demigods, and the great saintly persons. So, from Vaman, who was a dwarf Brahman, he became huge. So this was his size. He began increasing in size. Bali Maharaj wanted to give charity to Vamandev, but the Lord expanded his body in such a way that he showed Bali Maharaj that everything in the universe is already in his body. There's nothing outside the Lord. Actually, no one can give anything to the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for he is full in everything. Sometimes we see a devotee offering Ganges water to the Ganges. After taking his bath in the Ganges, a devotee takes a palmful of water and then offers it back to the Ganges. Actually, when one takes a palmful of water from the Ganges does not lose anything. And similarly, if a devotee offers a palmful of water to the Ganges does not increase in any way. But by such offering, the devotee becomes celebrated as the devotee of Mother Ganges. Similarly, when we offer anything with devotion and faith, what we offer does not belong to us, nor does it enrich the opulence of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. But if one offers whatever he has in his possession, he becomes a recognized devotee. In this regard, the example is given is that when one's face is decorated with a garland and sandalwood pulp, the reflection of one's face in a mirror automatically becomes beautiful. The original source of everything is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is our original source also. Therefore, when the Supreme Personality of Godhead is decorated, the devotees and all living entities are decorated automatically. So beautiful purport. So whenever we go and take bath in Ganges or Yamuna, we take, after bath, we take some palmful of water and offer it back to Ganges. So what happened there? It's not like Ganges lose one palmful of water or she gains one. Nothing happens. But in the process, the person who's offering, he becomes a devotee. We like to sing Tera Tujko Arpana Kya Lage Mera Om Jai Jagadish Hare, but we don't really mean it. So when we give charity to the Lord, or when we give donation to the Lord, it's all his money. The body also belongs to him, the senses belong to him, everything comes from him and everything belongs to him. But when we give him charity, when we give him donation, not charity, of course. Vamandev came to ask for charity from Bali Maharaj. We don't give charity. This is our offering. So in the process, we understand and that everything belongs to the Lord and we are just trying to make an offering to him with the feeling of gratitude. Lord, it belongs to you. I'm just offering it back to you. Not that one should feel very proud that, oh, I have given donation of 1 lakh rupees or 1 crore rupees or whatever. Everything belongs to him anyway. At the time of death, we're going to lose it anyway. but of course, the soul is also his, the heart is also his, everything is his. The only thing that he doesn't have, everything rest, everything is his material. What he doesn't have right now is our love for him. And the process is given. So slowly, by following the principles of devotional service, we are giving him the love that is actually should be for him, but we have put it some other place. So the Lord showed to everybody assembled there that everything belongs to him. He showed them the universal form, and not the universal form, but the Lord increased his size in such a way. Kaya balistasya mahavibhute sahartvigacharya sadasya etat dadarsha vishvam trigunam gunatmake bhutendriyarthashaya jiva yuktam. Bali Maharaj, along with all the priests, acharyas, and members of the assembly, observed the Supreme Personality of Godhead's universal body, which was full of 6 opulences. That body contained everything within the universe, including all the gross material elements, the senses, the sense objects, the mind, intelligence, and false ego, the various kinds of living entities, and the actions and reactions of the 3 modes of material nature. In Bhagavad Gita, the Supreme Personality of Godhead says, Aham sarvasya prabhavo matta sarvam pravartat. Krishna is the origin of everything. Vasudeva sarvamiti. Krishna is everything. Everything rests in the body of the Lord. Yet the Lord is not everywhere. Means the Lord, as Shyam Sundar or Vaman Dev, is not everywhere. Mayavadi philosophers think that since the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, has become everything, he has no separate existence. But this is not true. Their philosophy is called Advaitavad. Actually, however, their philosophy is not correct. Here, Bali Maharaj was a seer of the Personality of Godhead's universal body, and that body which was seen. Thus, there is Dvaitavad. There are always 2 entities, the seer and the seen. The seer is a part of the whole, but he's not equal to the whole. Means the living entity who's a seer, who's looking. So we are part of the whole, but we're not equal to the whole. The part of the whole, the seer, is also one with the whole. But since he is but a part, he cannot be the complete whole at any time. This achintya bheda bhed, simultaneous oneness and difference, is a perfect philosophy propounded by Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So we are part of the whole, but we are never the whole. We are never going to become the whole either. We're always going to remain the part. Rasamachashtangri leyat padayor mahim mahindran purushasya janghayo patat trino januni vishwamurter urvor ganam marutim indrasena. Thereafter, Bali Maharaj, who was occupying the seat of King Indra, could see the lower planetary system, such as Rasatman, on the soles of the feet of Lord's universal form. He saw the Lord's feet, on the Lord's feet, the surface of the globe, on the surface of his calves, all the mountains, on his knees, the various birds, and on his thighs, the varieties of air. The universal situation is described herein in regard to the complete constitution of the Lord's gigantic universal form. The study of this universal form begins from the soul. Above the soles are the feet, above the feet are the calves, and above the calves are the knees, above the knees are the thighs. Thus the parts of the universal body, one after another, are described here. The knees are the place of the birds, and above that are varieties of air. The birds can fly over the mountains, and above the birds are varieties of air. So different kinds of air are there. संध्याम विभोर वाससी गुह्य एकशत प्रजापति जगन्ने आत्म मुख्यान नाभ्यम नभ कुज कुक्षिषु सप्त सिंधु उरु क्रमस्योर असि चर्च माला. Bali Maharaj saw beneath the garments of the Lord who acts wonderfully the evening twilight. In the Lord's private parts, he saw the Prajapatis, and in the round portion of the waist, he saw himself with his confidential associates. In the Lord's navel, he saw the sky. On the Lord's waist, he saw the seven oceans. And on the Lord's bosom, he saw all the clusters of stars. So somebody can argue, Bali Maharaj was standing, but the Lord is so huge, how he could see? But probably he was also given this divine eyes to see everything. Text 25 to 29, there are lots of descriptions, so we'll just go to the translation. My dear king, on the heart of Lord Murari, he saw religion. On the chest, both pleasing words and truthfulness. In the mind, the moon. On the bosom, the goddess of fortune. With the lotus flower in her hands. On the neck, all the Vedas and all sound vibrations. On the arms, all the demigods headed by King Indra. In both ears, all the directions. On the head, the upper planetary systems. On the hair, the clouds. In the nostrils, the wind. On the eyes, the sun. And in the mouth, fire. From his words came all the Vedic mantras. On his tongue was a demigod of water, Varunadev. On his eyebrows were the regulative principles, and on his eyelids were day and night. When the eyes were open, it was a daytime, and when they were closed, it was night. On his forehead was anger, and on his lips was greed. On, O king, in his touch were lusty desires, and his semen were all the waters. On his back was irreligion, and his wonderful activities or steps was a fire of sacrifice. On his shadow was death, in his smile was the illusory energy. On the hairs of his body were all the drugs and herbs. In his veins were all the rivers. On his nails were all the stones. In his intelligence were Lord Brahma, the demigods, and the great saintly persons. And throughout his entire body and senses were all living entities, moving and stationary. Bali Maharaj saw everything in the gigantic body of the Lord. Sarvatmanidam bhunam niriksha sarve asura kashmalam pura sudarshanam chakram asaya tejo dhanushya shargas tananitnu ghosham. O king, when all the demons, the followers of Maharaj Bali, saw the universal form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who held everything within his body, when they saw in the Lord's hand his disc, known as Sudarshan Chakra, which generates intolerable heat, and when they heard the tumultuous sound of his bow, all of these caused lamentation within their hearts. Parjanya Ghosho Jalaja Panchajanya Kaumodaki Vishnu Gada Taraswini Vidyadharvasi Shatachandra Yuktas Turnota Tamma Vakshe Sayakocha. The Lord's conchal name Panchajanya, which made sounds like that of a cloud, the very forceful club named Kaumodaki, the sword named Vidyadhara, with a shield decorated with hundreds of moon-like spots, and also Akshaya Shayak, the best of quivers. All of these appeared together to offer prayers to the Lord. So all of these are persons. Best of the quivers, Panchajanya, Shang, Kaumodaki, the sword, Vidyadhar, everything. Text 32-33, we'll just go to the translation. These associates, headed by Sunanda and other chief associates and accompanied by all the predominating deities of the various planets, offered prayers to the Lord, who wore a brilliant helmet, bracelets, and glittering earrings that resembled fish. On the Lord's bosom were the locks of hair called Srivatsa and the transcendental jewel named Kaustubh. He wore a yellow garment covered by a belt, and he was decorated by a flower garland surrounded by bees, manifesting himself in this way, O King, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, whose activities are wonderful, covered the entire surface of the earth with one footstep. The sky, and with the sky with his body in all directions, this arm. One might argue, since Bali Maharaj promised Vamandev only the land occupied by his steps, why did Lord Vamandev occupy the sky also? In this regard, Srila Jiva Goswami says that the steps include everything, downward and upward. When one stands up, he suddenly occupies certain parts of the sky and certain portions of the earth below his feet. Thus, there was nothing uncommon for the Supreme Personality of Godhead when he occupied the entire sky with his body. Text 34, because that's the last words of this chapter, so I wanted to cover that. As the Lord took his second step, with the first step, he covered earth and sky and everything below. With the second step, he covered the heavenly planets. And not even a spot remained for the third step, for the Lord's foot extended higher and higher beyond Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and even Satyaloka. Means Brahmaloka was also covered. When the Lord's footstep exceeded the height of all the lokas, including Maharloka, Janaloka, Tapaloka, and Satyaloka, his nails certainly pierced the covering of the universe. The universe is covered by the 5 material elements, Bhumi, Rapa, Analo, Vayu. As stated in the Shastra, these elements are in layers, each 10 times thicker than the previous one. Nonetheless, the nails of the Lord pierced, nails on the toes of the Lord, pierced through all these layers and made a hole penetrating into the spiritual world. From this hole, the water of the Ganges infiltrated into this material world, and therefore it is said, Padnakhanira Janita Janapavan. So that's in the Dashavatara Shloka, Stotra. Because the Lord kicked a hole in the covering of the universe, the water of the Ganges came into this material world to deliver all the fallen souls. And the water of Ganges came washing the lotus feet of the Lord. That's why it is said she has the potency that she really has. So thus ends the 8th canto, 20th chapter. Bali Maharaj surrenders the universe. So we'll stop here. See anybody has any questions or comments. Okay, so you all have a safe and wonderful day. Hare Krishna. Jai Srila Prabhupada.
Hare Krishna, Jai Shri Ram.